All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Saturday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great weekend so far. Well, Team USA comes away with the gold medal today. An incredible Steph flurry down the stretch as they withstand a hectic French comeback. And Team USA gets the gold. We're going to be breaking that game down from the perspective of a bunch of different angles, a bunch of different players. Talk a little bit about Victor Wembanyama as well. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Don't forget it's also helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the remainder of the summer. All right, guys, let's talk some basketball. So the story of this game was obviously Steph Curry. This was a very, very close game late, kind of unexpectedly. And this was kind of the story for France in the entire tournament, right? They were the three best defensive teams by the metrics in the tournament were USA, Germany, and France. And France in particular really depended on their defense to get out in transition because they don't really have a great half-court offense. They struggle to score when things really, really slow down. But what they do is they just keep playing hard. The entire game, they apply a ton of ball pressure. They play passing lanes. They try to get out in transition as much as possible because that's where it gets easier for them to score. And they did. Forced a bunch of turnovers in that mid-fourth quarter stretch. There was this chaotic sequence where KD ends up getting a wild chase down block, and the ball just kind of in that ensuing chaos just lands in Victor Wembanyama's hands right at the basket. He gets a little easy bucket there where he shoots a bank shot and then just follows it and just stuffs it through the rim. It's kind of interesting watching FIBA rules because it's like guys are just literally like as the ball goes up to the rim, everyone's just jumping up to the rim to try to either force it down or force it back out. It's kind of a funky thing with FIBA basketball. We even saw like a dunk attempt where Grayson Yabusele tried to dunk on Steph, and like as he went up, like the ball's like in the rim, and LeBron's like not swiping at the ball, he's swiping at the top of the rim. It's kind of just an interesting angle to basketball with those FIBA rules. But anyway, Wemby gets the putback. All of a sudden, France is within 3 with 3 minutes left. And then Team USA begins to just spam LeBron Steph two-man game. And Steph hits, I think, what was it? It was either 3 or 4 consecutive threes. And they were able to withstand because France kept hitting shots. Nick Batum hit a 3 in the right corner. Victor Wembanyama hit a 3 along the left wing. They kept hitting shots. And Steph just kept stiff-arming them. Every time France got it to 6, he'd hit another. They'd get it to 6, he'd hit another. And it was just an awesome Steph moment, specifically in the context of how the tournament went. And, you know, I thought a lot of people were overblowing Steph's struggles early in the tournament because, again, Steph obviously has some shooting variance that is kind of baked into his game, right? That's just how it works when you rely on jump shooting, right? And, I mean, this tournament has been the most hilarious, exaggerated example of that because he couldn't make shit for the first half of the tournament, and then he makes, obviously, every single big shot in the semifinal and the final game. So we all know that variance plays a certain role in Steph's game. That said, it's not just about making shots with Steph. Like he took an important role in this team, specifically as the guy who's running a lot of off-ball action and just staying active moving around. And remember, when it comes to the offensive end of the floor, how you're guarded matters every bit as much as whether or not you're actually making shots. And even though Steph was missing, he was still being guarded like he was Steph Curry, which opens up things for the U.S. team, who, by the way, had a really, really effective offense in the Olympics. I remember after the quarterfinals, I threw out the stat. They were at like 1.14 points per half-court possession, which is completely off the charts good. And so that was with Steph missing shots. And obviously there are a lot of other talented players that are benefiting from that. But I did think some of Steph's struggles were overblown. That said, you bring Steph Curry on Team USA because you need him to hit shots. And he hit so many big shots in these last 2 games, from all those shots early in the semifinal game as Serbia could not miss, just to keep USA attached close enough so that a comeback was feasible, to the big shot that was the lead-changing shot in the fourth quarter after Serbia went back up by 2. He hit that 3 curling around the screen from Joel Embiid, to every shot he hit down the stretch today when France tried to make their comeback. I'm glad he was missing when he was missing, because basketball gets like that sometimes. Like, I haven't actually looked at the numbers, but I imagine if you zoom out, it looks kind of like typical Steph shooting in the larger sample, right? But in the small sample, it was like couldn't make anything to making everything. And I am glad, thankfully, as a basketball fan, as a Team USA fan, that he was broke when he was, because we didn't need him in that game We needed him in the Serbia game. We needed him in the France game. Steph got it done. And I will say, being on this side of it was a hell of a lot more fun than being on the other side of it. Because as a LeBron fan, I've rooted against Steph a ton in my life, not just in the Cavs years, but even extending into these Lakers years with the play-in tournament and then that series in 2023, which was a crazy hectic series. Like, I've had to root against Steph a lot. And like, there was a different version of Steph in that Lakers series. It was very on the ball and like we couldn't do anything with him in pick and roll. It was very different. But like being on this side of it and actually rooting for him for a change is very, very nice. And I understand why you Warriors fans love rooting for him so much. Steph, it's interesting. Like, so many LeBron fans hate Steph and so many Steph fans hate LeBron for whatever reason. And that's somewhat to be expected when it comes to rivalries. But LeBron's my favorite player. Steph's literally my second favorite player. I absolutely love watching him play basketball. And it's been an absolute joy rooting for him with Team USA this year. You know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only like 2 days the whole year without a game. 2. With so much happening and so much action, that makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier or any simpler. Baseball, golf, UFC, there's something for every fan of every sport to bet on DraftKings. And I know it's early, but football season will be here before you know it. And the Kansas City Chiefs are currently the favorite to win the Super Bowl on DraftKings at plus 550. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I do want to take a little closer look at the LeBron Steph two-man game. You know, I've always been fascinated by basketball tactics, and this was a very specific action that was deadly against France at the tail end of this game, and I want to get into the specific reasons why. So, obviously, when this team was conceptualized and put together, a lot of different things to be excited about as a basketball fan, right? Like, Team USA has an awesome front court, right? Like, it was fun to watch AD and Bam play together. AD, Bam, LeBron, KD, Jason Tatum, even Joel Embiid coming over and not playing for France. Like, we had a really fun front court that was fun to look at, right? Like, there's all these like different exciting things to look at, but LeBron and Steph playing together was obviously the thing that we were most excited for. These are the two greatest winners of this era. They have 4 titles each since 2012. Just do basic math. There have been 13 NBA champions that have been crowned since 2012. 8 of them involve LeBron James and Steph Curry. That is unbelievable dominance from those two guys. That is why they are the two greatest winners of this era. But it extends further into the basketball fit. Obviously, there was an aura piece where it's like, it's going to be fun watching LeBron and Steph play together and try to win basketball games. But there's also a basketball fit element. And this has been a little bit up for debate over the course of the last couple of years. I remember around the trade deadline when there was some buzz about the Warriors maybe trying to go after LeBron, how some people were hesitant to think that the LeBron and Steph fit would work. I always thought it would work very well. And the main reason why, before we get into the specific basketball tactics, is they're two of the greatest winners, meaning they understand how to win basketball games, but they do very different things. And when you get basketball players that do very different things and feel very different responsibilities, like, that's just going to kind of accentuate each other in a way that gets more complicated when guys play similar roles, right? Like LeBron, this entire tournament was like a Swiss Army knife. He was a dominant defensive rebounder. He guarded Jokic in the fourth quarter of the semifinal game. Like, he just did all sorts of crazy shit because he's 6'9" and he's this freaky athlete, right? Like Steph Curry, that over-the-top shot making is so important in FIBA because of the defensive 3-second rule. Obviously, he's a movement shooter who constantly stays active in off-ball situations. They just do very different things. So I just had a feeling that they would impact each other or help elevate each other, and that the two of them would impact winning at an amount even greater than the sum of their parts would lead you to believe. But specifically, the LeBron-Steph two-man game was something that I was very excited about because of the dynamic of trying to defend it. Now, what is two-man game? Two-man game is just any action that you run between two players, right? That could be a bunch of different things. It could be a dribble handoff. It can be a ball screen. It could be an off-ball action. You can. There's so many different ways that you can run two-man game. And for LeBron and Steph at the tail end of this game, it was some LeBron on the ball with Steph screening for LeBron, some Steph on the ball with LeBron screening for Steph, but it all effectively is the same thing, which is two-man game, right? Now, what makes guarding the LeBron-Steph two-man game so difficult is that both guys have to be guarded by very different types of defenders. LeBron James has to be guarded by a big, strong forward. If you don't put a big, strong forward on him, LeBron's just going to bully that dude everywhere on the floor. If not on the ball, then he'll do it off the ball on the offensive glass, right? Like that's a physical matchup that you have to account for, right? For France at the end of this game, that was Guerschon Yabusele, right? Big, strong forward that can hope to hang a little bit with LeBron in some of those physical situations, right? For Steph, it's a movement shooter. He's chasing around like crazy, right? So you need a guy who can navigate screens. You need a lock and trail defender. That's typically going to be a smaller guard, right? And so in this particular case, Steph's being guarded by a small guard. LeBron's being guarded by a big forward. That's what starts to cause these particular issues. And so for France, the smaller player that was guarding Steph down the stretch ended up being Nick Batum, who, by the way, 6'8", but skinny, slender, quick-footed. This was a guy, if you guys remember, in the Knicks series that was guarding Tyrese Maxey for a large portion of that series. Nick Batum guards pretty well. That's why you put him there, right? He's not quite as quick as some of the quicker guards, but he can get a hand up and get some good contests in, right? So we saw quite a bit of LeBron-Steph two-man game throughout the game, but they started spamming it at the end. Now, there was a play in the third quarter where LeBron hit Steph for a three in two-man game, which was the first iteration of how you expect teams to guard it. So LeBron was being guarded on this play by Guerschon Yabusele, and Steph was being guarded by one of the French bench guards. I can't remember his name. He was number 6, right? Steph goes to set the screen for LeBron. On that play, Steph's defender has no choice but to hedge. He absolutely has to hedge because if he doesn't, Steph will just screen Yabusele and LeBron will just go downhill because Yabusele cannot recover to get in front of LeBron James while he's getting screened. That's just not going to happen, right? Now LeBron's barreling downhill. He's going to draw in a help defender, make a pass, or he's going to get a dunk, right? So you have to hedge. So number 6 throws out a hard hedge to try to stop LeBron from driving past Yabusele. Steph identifies this, slips right out to the left wing. Yabusele is kind of like stuck in no man's land because he sees the hedge. He's getting ready to recover to LeBron, but he identifies at the last second LeBron's going to pass to Steph. So he throws his hands up. LeBron just jumps and throws a beautiful over-the-top pass. Steph is wide open because Steph's defender had to hedge on LeBron. So Steph can slip out of it, and he has an opening there on the left wing. By the way, these plays, I put together a thread on Twitter at @JasonLT, where every single one of these plays, you can see the video so you guys can get a visual example of what I'm talking about. But that was the third quarter example. On the third quarter example, they tried a hedge. In the hedge, Steph got wide open three, he hit it. That's not going to work. So Victor Wembanyama gets his putback of his own miss. That puts him back within 3 with 3 minutes left. And so Team USA decides to start running LeBron-Steph two-man game. So at this point, remember, Nick Batum is guarding Steph. Yabusele is guarding LeBron. Steph sets the screen for LeBron. Once again, LeBron's kind of at the top. Steph sets it on his right side, slips out of it. On this play, Batum and Yabusele decide to switch. But on the switch, Yabusele, because he's not used to guarding movement shooters, that's the reason why you don't switch, right? If you switch Yabusele onto Steph, he's too slow. You switch Batum onto LeBron, he's too small. So it just presents all these issues. They switch Yabusele onto Steph. LeBron throws the over-the-top pass to Steph. All Steph does is just throw a pump fake. Why? Because Yabusele hasn't guarded movement shooters. He doesn't face guys that pump fake a lot. He's not used to kind of chasing and recovering in this type of situation. Boom, pump fake, easily gets Yabusele out of position. Quick little sidestep, boom, knocks down the three. There's just nothing that France can do there. Okay, so we tried hedging. That didn't work. We tried switching. That didn't work. What's the next thing that we can try? So this next possession down the floor, Team USA switches to Steph being on the ball and LeBron being the screener. So it's a little bit of a different look than the previous two possessions, right? But the same like overarching problems exist, right? You can't switch the action because you don't want Yabusele on Steph on an island. You can't hedge because Steph's going to get open, or in this case with Steph on the ball, if you hedge, LeBron's going to get open. He's just going to barrel down the lane and make something happen. So what's the next logical progression? Well, they try to get Nick Batum just to chase over the top of the screen. So LeBron goes up and sets a screen. Nick Batum goes way out on the high side to try to chase Steph. Yabusele doesn't hedge. He just kind of like sits in like a little bit of like a defensive stance right on the other side of the screen in case Steph tries to curl, but he stays home on LeBron. So now you didn't switch. You asked Nick Batum to chase. Now Steph is coming off with Nick Batum in trail position. Steph has the ball. Live dribble, Batum is trailing him down the top of the key. Steph just hits a simple step back dribble into a pump fake. But since Batum is completely out of position, he's sprinting back into the play. He has no choice but to sell out to stop that shot. So he jumps out of his shoes to try to block the step back. Steph just simple pump fake, leans over, knocks down the three. So now we've tried hedging. That didn't work. We tried switching. That didn't work. We tried asking Nick Batum just to chase over the top. That didn't work. And after that, that's when it turned into double team. So very next trip down the floor, they just try switching Yabusele onto Steph, and they double team him, swing pass to Kevin Durant. Devin Booker's wide open in the left corner because you just threw a double team. Swing to Devin Booker. Victor Wembanyama closes out hard. Booker has an advantage, so he just rips to the baseline, beats Wembanyama off the dribble. All of France collapses. Easy kick out pass to Steph. Now Steph's open again because you're in rotation. And guess what? Kevin Durant and Devin Booker know how to play in rotation. Boom, pump fake. Steph gets another clean look. And then the final possession was just silly. Like France tried switching Yabusele onto Kevin Durant and putting Evan Fournier onto LeBron. And so then they just brought Kevin Durant into the action. Same sort of thing. They switched and they doubled. And then guess what? Steph hit a step back three over a double team because that's what can happen when Steph enters into that transcendent zone. But I do think it's fascinating because like that was what was interesting about watching those two together in that final sequence. One, like LeBron James doesn't care about how they win. He just wants to win. Steph had a heater. He's going to trust him. There were earlier moments in this tournament where LeBron had it going in clutch time, and Steph just backed the hell off and let LeBron do his thing, right? Like that's trust in each other. That's understanding what your advantages are. That's sticking with something. Like if an action isn't broke, you stick with it. You run the exact same thing over and over again until they figure out how to get a stop. And France could not get a stop on that LeBron Steph two-man game. I thought it was just a really fascinating kind of basketball chess piece. They tried everything. They tried the hedge and recover, got burned. They tried switching, got burned. They tried asking Nick Batum to chase, got burned. They tried switching and double teaming, got burned. Like there was literally nothing that they could do. Even the one possession they defended perfectly where they doubled and rotated well, Steph just hit a shot over a double team. And that's what's so much fun about watching the all-time great basketball players is there's not a coverage that works. There's not a trump card. There's not a fix that you can throw out there to stop these guys. And honestly, it's a little unfair to have all that talent on Team USA, right? Like, oh, you want to switch so that LeBron's not in the action? Well, here comes Kevin Durant. It's going to be the same sort of issue, right? Or like the end of the Serbia game where LeBron and Steph were both clearly tired at the end, and so they just tossed the ball to KD, and then KD went and got a bucket. It was a lot of fun watching this team. I will say this in general was one of my favorite memories as a basketball fan. Watching all of my favorite players that caused me to fall in love with the game as I was growing up play in this high-stakes environment when everything was on the line, and to watch how much it meant to them, to watch their competitiveness shine through. The big one, I tweeted this out after the Serbia game, like that it was the last legacy-defining moment for KD, Steph, and LeBron. And like you guys know me, I don't do the first take thing. I'm not here to like to just sit here and debate legacies all day long. That's not really my favorite thing to do as a basketball fan. However, these guys do have a legacy. And their legacy to me is they are winners. These guys have 10 championships between the three of them. And the main thing that stands out to me when I watched this tournament was seeing the little things that led to them winning in the NBA come together in this environment to help this team win. And it's a reminder that it's not a coincidence. It's not fluky. These guys are as successful as they have been because they do the things on the basketball court that you watched them do with Team USA. And when it all came together, that's what made this team unbeatable, even against a red-hot Serbia team that made over 50% of their threes through three quarters and is led by Nikola Jokic, the most indomitable force in the game of basketball right now, in my opinion. All of that was the set of circumstances in that game, and it still wasn't enough to beat them because LeBron, Steph, and KD and everyone else on this roster has that winning character that they've leaned on in the NBA and then they leaned on here with Team USA. It just, as a basketball fan, I can't believe it. I can't believe that we had this much fun in August and July watching basketball. Our video, the Serbia instant reaction video, was the most watched video in the history of the new channel, not counting the volume stuff, but since we've been on our own channel, it's the most watched video we've ever had. What that tells me is you guys loved it. That tells me we got more views for that than we did for Luka's game winner or for that crazy Nuggets-Lakers series or some of the other big moments that we encountered along the way. Like, this seemed to be a real moment that resonated with basketball fans. It almost felt like we were all kind of enjoying it together. There was no fan bases. We were all kind of together, just kind of having fun, enjoying it. And I just had a ton of fun. A couple other shout outs. Kevin Durant. I thought he was so good defensively in this game. Spent a good amount of time on Victor Wembanyama. That block, the chase down block that he had, again, it ended up not mattering because the ball ended up popping back to Victor Wembanyama. But that's that type of like championship level, complete and total commitment to leaving everything on the line type of defensive play that is memorable. And that's a little one that like might get lost in the shuffle here, but that was an incredible defensive play. I thought just in general, KD just... He brought the vitally important, like juiced up superstar version of Michael Porter Jr. to this team, meaning like excellent help side defense, excellent defensive rebounding, excellent weak side scoring. And again, like that, all of this stuff had a vital importance to this particular team. They needed an initiator, a guy who could just focus on feeding guys in their spots. LeBron fed into that spot perfectly. They needed a guy who could just run around and be a movement shooter and just be really active off the ball. That ended up being Steph. They needed a guy who was just a green light jump shooter who would just make the defense pay every single time they helped off of him. That was Kevin Durant. Obviously, Devin Booker did a little bit of that as well. Everybody filled in unique roles, but for those specific three guys, you saw them all kind of slot into their unique roles, and I thought KD was awesome in this particular game. Anthony Davis, a monster game in this one. Got a huge series of stops on Evan Fournier on a switch in crunch time when they were trying to pull away late. He did a bunch of work on the glass. He had 4 offensive rebounds. He had 4 blocks. He was just an absolute monster in this game. I thought it was the right read, too, to go with him instead of Embiid, given the matchup and just how, Victor Wembanyama was going right at Joel Embiid early in this game. He was just kind of struggling with his foot speed, and I thought that was the right read. Really good game from Anthony Davis. And then Devin Booker, just once again, solid. 15 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Hit some big shots. That huge drive of the Victor Wembanyama closeout late that got the wide open shot for Steph. I thought that was a huge play. Everyone played awesome. I just had a blast. I can't even tell you guys how much I enjoyed watching this Team USA. All right, let's talk MVP, and then we'll talk some Victor Wembanyama, and then we'll be out of here for the day. So LeBron wins MVP of the tournament. I thought he deserved it. I thought he was the player on Team USA that impacted winning the most overall throughout the tournament. I thought even though he didn't score as many points as Steph Curry did in the semifinal, I thought he was equally important to the win in that particular game. Did so much work defensively and just battling Jokic on the glass and just doing a lot of the dirty, ugly work in the physical battle that was that game. I thought he was incredible. That said, I thought Steph had a real case. I thought him and how well he played in those last 2 games. If you told me that you thought Steph deserved MVP, I don't think you're wrong necessarily. Like, I think both guys deserved it. I think Steph had a really good case. I think LeBron had a slightly better case, and I thought he deserved to win it, but I didn't really have a problem with it either way. The most important thing is they don't care. LeBron and Steph don't care. And that's why they've won like they've won in their career. They care more about winning than they do whatever the accolades are that come from it. If Steph cared about MVPs, he wouldn't have brought Kevin Durant to the Golden State Warriors. If LeBron cared about MVPs, he wouldn't have asked Kyrie Irving to take that big shot at the end of 2016. He wouldn't have kind of ceded. LeBron controlled the offense this entire tournament. And then when it mattered against Steph, when Steph had it going, he was like, here you go. It's your moment, Steph. Because he didn't give a damn. They just want to win. Steph wants to win. LeBron wants to win. Yeah, LeBron ended up getting the MVP, but like it just doesn't matter. That's for the kids to argue about on Twitter. And let them. I know there's a big appetite for that sort of thing, and I'm sure the stan bases will be going at it over the course of the next forever. I'm sure they'll be arguing the 2024 Olympic MVP for a while, but to me, they both had a real case, and I just don't care. But I'm happy for LeBron. I thought he was a deserving winner in the same way that Steph would have been. Here's a crazy LeBron stat for you. LeBron was 27 for 30 at the rim in this tournament. Giannis led the tournament with 34 makes in the restricted area. Jokic was second with 28. LeBron was third with 27. And he was the only guy, like both Giannis and Jokic shot below 80% in the at the rim. LeBron shot 90% at the rim, which is completely insane. Again, that's I will miss watching this Team USA group, and I'm really curious to see where what the team looks like in 2028. Obviously, with so many of these guys aging out. Last note for today: Victor Wembanyama, 26 points, 7 rebounds, just an absolute competitive monster. He broke AD off for a step back three at the tail end of the game, up at the top of the key, where he like made AD buckle and got great separation and great lift, and it looked like a good release too. He just left it a little short. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, this guy's going to be so insanely good when all of this stuff clicks for him in the long run. He is so physically competitive for a guy who's thin. That I think is a huge piece. Like I've told you guys many times on the show. Like I think basketball is a very, very physical game. And most big basketball games are bloodbaths physically. And so he just seems cut out for that. He's really aggressive around the rim. There's a confidence piece there. There's a competitiveness piece there. We saw him crying after the loss. I'm so excited to see what that kid can do in the long run in his career. I was impressed by him in this tournament, even beyond the stuff he did in the box score. He's just such an impactful defensive player. So just a guy that's going to be fun to root for over the course of the rest of his career. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. I'm back for the evening. I'm actually after this going to record a mailbag episode for just to help have some more content while I'm out of town. I am turning around and flying out again tomorrow to Seattle. I've recorded 3 player rankings videos as well, so you guys will get the mailbag. You'll get 3 player rankings videos. All that's going out while I'm in Seattle, and then I return a week from Sunday, and that following Monday we'll get right back into those player rankings from there. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you soon.